All right, so in continuing with what we were talking about earlier about a couple tips that you can use when you're on your next road trip, one of the things that we commonly see is that we are in a sustained position or posture for a long period of time. When you do that, the joints of your spine might become a little stiff, rigid, restricted, and hard to move. So one of the things that we like to input is actually putting in movements that are somewhat opposite of what you're spending most of your time in. With the low back, one of the things that we'd like to have you stop by and do is what we call repetitive extension and standing. It looks like this. It's relatively simple. You'll get out, hands placed into the small of the back, feet about shoulder width apart. Breathe in, breathe out. When you breathe out, you're going to let your belt buckle glide forward and then come back to neutral. When you do this, you do want to get to the end of the motion. So making sure that you are getting through that full range of motion is important. We don't want to be living in that middle range. Another thing that we see with this repetitive or sustained posture of driving is that we end up with hips that become stiff, tight, and rigid as well. We're always in hip flexion. So one of the things we like to do is get out and move those ball and socket joints around a little bit and get them feeling and moving a little bit better. We use what we call hip cars for that. They look like this, and I'd recommend keep them pretty simple when you are out there on the road. So arms out onto a surface. You're gonna take I'll show you with my right leg here. Take your right leg, you're gonna bring your knee up to your chest. You're gonna rotate externally, bringing your foot more midline. Keeping that rotation, you're then gonna draw your knee out to the side, far as you can without rotating your torso or your upper body. Once you reach the end of that motion, then you're gonna internally rotate, bringing your heel towards the ceiling. Once you get to that range of motion, you're gonna draw the knee behind you in about a half circle, and then slowly back underneath you, and then simply rewind, heel and knee straight behind you. Externally rotate, bring the knee out and up towards your armpit, high as you can go. Back around towards the center, heel towards the midline, and then back down. Lastly, that mid back gets pretty stiff as we spend a lot of time driving. So one thing we can do for both the shoulders and the thoracic spine, place our hands on the vehicle, get into a nice wide stance. Breathe in, breathe out. When you breathe out, you're going to draw your sternum towards the floor and then come up. Those are a couple more tips that you can use on your next trip.